When I opened my eyes that morning, I knew something was off. The apartment was too quiet, too still. I reached for my crutches and dragged myself down the hallway, only to find the front door wide open. Drawers emptied, closets gutted. My car was gone. So was my laptop, my medals, my wallet, and Stephanie. She left behind just one thing, a handwritten note taped to the bathroom mirror. I didn't sign up to be a nurse. You're not the man I married. I've moved on with someone whole. That was it. 5 years of marriage erased with a Sharpie. I came back from Iraq missing half my leg, but nothing hurt more than knowing the woman I fought to come home to didn't think I was worth staying for. She drained our bank account, took everything of value, left me with nothing but painkillers and an empty fridge. But what she didn't know was that before my deployment, I opened a safe deposit box. She always called a waste of time. She took the furniture, she took the car. She took the money, but she forgot about that box. And what was inside would change everything. If you've ever felt abandoned when you needed someone the most, this story is for you. Hit that subscribe button and stay with me, because this is the part where the pain becomes power. My name is Ryan Mitchell. I'm 31 years old, born and raised in Portland, Oregon, and up until the explosion, I was a proud Army Ranger. I signed up right out of high school, just like my father and grandfather before me. The uniform was in my blood. The mission gave me purpose, and every time I got deployed, I reminded myself who I was fighting for. Her name was Stephanie. We met at a 4th of July barbecue when I was home on leave. She had this spark, confident, sarcastic, always the center of attention. We dated for a year, got married the next summer. She said she loved the way I made her feel safe. Said she'd wait for me no matter how long I was gone. Back then I believed her. We weren't rich, but we had a life. A little apartment with secondhand furniture, a joint checking account we were trying to build, weekend video calls from base whenever I could get Wi-Fi. She'd send me care packages, snacks, notes, little things to remind me of home. And every time I read one of her letters, I promised myself I'd come back to her. Then came the IED. We were clearing a village outside Fallujah. I remember the heat, the dust, and the sharp snap of metal tearing through the air. My left leg took most of the blast, torn muscle, shattered bone, nerve damage. I was lucky to be alive, but the man they airlifted out of that village wasn't the same one Stephanie married. Recovery was brutal. 5 surgeries in 3 months, a walker, then crutches. Morphine dreams and physical therapy so painful, I screamed into my pillow more times than I can count. I spent weeks in a military rehab facility before I was finally cleared to go home. Home. That word had kept me going through the worst nights in the hospital. I imagined Stephanie running into my arms at the airport, cooking my favorite meal, helping me shower, maybe even laughing about how clumsy I'd gotten. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I thought we'd face it together. The reality was very different. She picked me up from the hospital in silence. No kiss, no, I missed you. Just a tight smile and a, let's get you in the car. When we got home, the couch had been rearranged to make room for my crutches, but it felt cold. Sterile like a guest room, not a home. The first night she slept in the other room, said I tossed too much. Said the meds made me smell like rubbing alcohol. I tried not to take it personally. I told myself she was just overwhelmed, that she needed time to adjust. But every day she pulled further away. She stopped asking how my physical therapy was going, stopped making dinner, stopped caring. When I asked if she wanted to go for a walk with me, she said, "You know I didn't marry an invalid, right?" That hit harder than the explosion, because by then I already knew she wasn't proud of me. She was embarrassed by me. And the worst part, I still loved her. So I kept trying. I smiled through the pain. I told her. I understood. I gave her space. I even told her she didn't have to take care of me. Just be there. Just talk to me. Just stay. But when someone's already gone in their heart, their body's just a formality. And 3 weeks after I came home, she disappeared. The morning she left, I knew something was wrong before I even opened my eyes. It was the silence. No coffee brewing, no hairdryer humming from the bathroom. No slamming of drawers or sarcastic remarks about how slow I was moving. Just Nothing. I reached over to her side of the bed. Empty, cold. I called out her name. No answer. I grabbed my crutches, swung myself up, and limped toward the living room. The apartment looked like it had been ransacked. Cabinet doors hung open. The TV was gone. So was the laptop, the jewelry box, even the framed wedding photo that used to sit on the bookshelf. The closets were gutted. My military duffel bag was missing, and the car not in the driveway. But what really hit me was the note. It was taped right to the bathroom mirror in her handwriting. Simple, sharp, cruel. Ryan, I didn't sign up to be a nurse. I need a man who can keep up, not drag me down. Don't call me. I'm with someone else now. He's whole, and he makes me feel alive again. Goodbye. That was it. No apology, no explanation. No goodbye kiss, just a cold-blooded exit. I remember standing there in the hallway, legs trembling, not just from the injury, but from the shock. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't punch the wall, even though I wanted to. I just stood there leaning on my crutches, staring at the place where our wedding photo used to be. Then I checked the bank account, zero. Actually negative. She'd taken everything. Every dollar of my combat pay. Even the VA disability deposit that had just hit that week, gone. She'd cleaned us out. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor for a long time. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was humiliated. I'd served 3 tours in Iraq. I dragged my broken body across a war zone to survive. I'd clung to the image of her smile while bombs went off around me, and she left me like I was trash on the curb. The next few days were a blur. I didn't eat much, didn't shower. I rationed painkillers and peanut butter crackers like I was still deployed. There were no friends to call. Stephanie had always kept my world small, said my army buddies were too intense, and that family just complicated things. She isolated me without me even realizing it. Until now I realized everything. The distance, the cold looks, the way she used to flinch when I reached for her with my bad leg. It hadn't started after the explosion. It had started long before. The only thing the injury did was give her an excuse. What hurt most wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the fact that somewhere deep down I already knew she was capable of it. One afternoon I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Staff Sergeant Dwayne Carter, my former squad leader. I hadn't spoken to him in almost a year. He said, "Heard what happened? Mitchell, you good?" I didn't know how to answer that. I wasn't good. I wasn't even okay. But I was still alive, and maybe that counted for something. Dwayne told me about a program through the VA that helped wounded veterans get back on their feet. Housing assistance, legal aid, mental health support. He even offered to fly out and help me get settled. I hesitated at first, but the truth was I had nothing left to lose. So I said yes. Dwayne showed up 2 days later. He brought a duffel bag, a 6-pack of Gatorade, and a look that said he'd seen this before. Seen men come home with more wounds on the inside than outside. Seen strong men crumble when the war followed them home. He didn't ask too many questions, didn't pry. Just helped me clean up the place, what little was left, and drove me to a VA transitional center on the east side of town. It wasn't glamorous. Shared rooms, thin mattresses, cafeteria food that tasted like wet cardboard. But it was safe, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel alone. The staff there were used to guys like me, guys who came home broken, guys whose lives had been stripped bare by more than just bombs. They gave me a caseworker named Nina who spoke with the kind of patience you only earn through witnessing suffering. We talked about Stephanie, about the note, about the emptiness. And Nina said something that stuck with me. She didn't leave because of your injury, Ryan. She left because she never had the strength to begin with. The blast just exposed it. That hit me like a second explosion. Because for the first time, I realized none of it was my fault. I hadn't failed her. She'd failed me. Still, that didn't make the nights easier. I had nightmares sometimes about the war, sometimes about the look on Stephanie's face the last time we made love. Sometimes I'd wake up with the phantom pain in my leg and reach for someone who wasn't there anymore. There were moments when I seriously considered checking out, when the pills whispered promises of silence, when the loneliness roared louder than any battlefield. But every time I got close to the edge, I thought of Dwayne, of Nina, of the nurse who held my hand after surgery and said, You matter more than you know. So I pushed through. I started showing up to PT again. Physical therapy 3 times a week, even when every step felt like walking on glass. I joined the group counseling sessions, listened to other vets talk about their divorces, their addictions, their demons. Some were worse off than me. Others were healing, but all of us were still standing, and that meant something. One afternoon during a session with Nina, she asked me a practical question. Do you have any assets that weren't in the joint account? At first I said no. Stephanie had taken everything: the car, the savings, even the military-issued laptop I use for telehealth calls. But then, something flickered in the back of my mind. The safe deposit box. I'd opened it right before my second deployment when a buddy warned me, always keep one thing just yours. At the time, I thought it was paranoid, but I did it anyway. Deposited some of my hazard pay in cash, put in my grandfather's coin collection stuff that could be worth a lot to the right buyer, and a sealed envelope from my parents that I'd never actually opened. Stephanie had always mocked it. Called it your secret apocalypse box. I hadn't thought about it in months. But now, it might be the only thing I had left. I called the bank the next morning. They still had it. My name was the only one on the access form. No co-signer, no joint ownership. No way she could have touched it. It was still there, untouched, unclaimed. And that's when something shifted inside me. For the first time since I got home, I felt something like power. Like maybe the story wasn't over yet. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the victim anymore. Walking into the bank that morning felt surreal. I was still on crutches, still wearing the oversized hoodie I practically lived in. But something about that vault door, the cold steel, the mechanical clunk as they turned the key, it made me feel like I was walking into the last room in the world where I still existed. The manager escorted me down the hallway, gave me privacy, and left me alone with the box. I opened it slowly. Inside were 3 things. A thick envelope of cash, 15 grand in mixed bills, a leather pouch filled with my grandfather's rare coin collection, and the manila folder my parents had handed me years ago. I opened the folder first. Inside was a letter my dad's handwriting. It said, Ryan, this account is yours and yours alone. We set it up before your first deployment. You can use it when the time is right. It's not much, but it's clean, private, and untouched. Never forget your worth. Attached to the letter was a copy of the account, a separate investment account under my name only, low-risk funds, slow growth, but steady. It had a balance of $48,000. I sat there staring at the numbers, barely able to breathe. Stephanie had taken everything she could see, but she'd forgotten the one place she'd always dismissed, the box she said was just for paranoid people. She'd taken the furniture, she'd taken the car, she'd taken the money we built together. But she didn't take me. And now, I had enough to start over. The first thing I did was meet with a military-provided lawyer. Through the VA network, I laid everything out: the marriage, the injury, the abandonment, the financial theft. He nodded through most of it, then said something I'll never forget. You were legally incapacitated when she took that money. She didn't just abandon a spouse, she abandoned a wounded veteran under federal protection. If we pushed this, she could be facing serious charges. I didn't want revenge, but I did want her to know that she didn't get away with it. We filed a civil notice, not criminal yet, but enough to get her attention. I used part of the money from the box to buy a used car, small, reliable. My name on the title. I moved into a studio apartment near the rehab center, furnished it with a mattress, a microwave, and a folding table. Minimal, but mine. I kept going to therapy. Kept showing up to group sessions even when I didn't feel like talking. And slowly, things started to change. One afternoon during physical therapy, I was paired with someone new. Her name was Sarah. She was soft-spoken but firm, the kind of person who didn't waste words but made everyone count. The first time we worked together, she said, don't push through pain. Respect it. That leg's not your enemy, it's your evidence. I liked that. She never treated me like I was broken. Never looked at my scars like they were something to fix. She just met me where I was and stayed there. Over the next few weeks, she became more than just a physical therapist. She became my mirror. She reminded me of the man I used to be and the one I could become again. And then Stephanie called block number voicemail. Her voice was cold, calculated, pretending to sound casual. She'd heard I was doing better, said she wanted to talk like adults about what was left. Said she knew I had some kind of secret account, and it was only fair she got a share fare. She left me bleeding in my own apartment, took everything but my dignity, and now she wanted that too. My lawyer drafted a response. It outlined the timeline, documented her disappearance, her note, her withdrawals, and included the phrase, unauthorized removal of government-funded resources from an incapacitated veteran may constitute fraud under federal law. We gave her two options. 1. Return the items she took, including the car electronics and remaining funds. 2. Face a formal federal complaint and possible charges. She called back crying, begging, said she didn't know it was that serious. Said she never meant to hurt me, but the thing about betrayal is once you see someone clearly, you can't unsee them. She returned the car, wired back most of the money, even left a box of my things on the front porch of my old apartment with a sticky note that read, sorry. I didn't call her back, didn't respond because now I had something she couldn't touch, peace. It wasn't over, not really. Even after she returned the money, even after I got the car back and held the title in my own hands, even after my lawyer said legally she's out of the picture, I still had to live with it. I still had to wake up every morning and remember that the person I built my life around walked away the moment I couldn't carry her anymore. I didn't want revenge, but I needed closure. So when Stephanie emailed me again this time from her real address saying she wanted to meet, last time I said yes, not because I missed her, not because I wanted her back, but because I wanted her to see what she left behind. We met at a neutral spot, a park near the old neighborhood. She showed up in sunglasses holding a latte, like we were just two old friends. Catching up, Ryan, she said, half smiling like nothing had happened. You look good. I nodded, didn't say a word. She started talking about her new job, her new apartment, how things just didn't work out with the guy she left me for, how she couldn't stop thinking about me, how she didn't realize how strong I really was. Then she said the thing that made my jaw tighten. Maybe we could start over. You know, clean slate. I laughed quietly, and for the first time in a long time, it wasn't bitter. It was real. I told her no, not with anger, not with spite. Just with peace. I told her I forgave her. But I would never forget what she taught me, that love, real love, doesn't disappear when life gets hard. It shows up, it stays, it fights alongside you, not against you. She blinked, surprised. Maybe she thought I'd crumble. Maybe she thought I'd still be begging. But I wasn't the man she left behind. I was someone new, someone rebuilt. After that, she left for good. No more emails. No more voicemails. No more showing up with fake apologies wrapped in guilt. And just like that, the war was over. The next few months were about rebuilding, this time with intention. I used the rest of the safe deposit money to launch a project I'd been dreaming about during my rehab sessions. A fitness center for veterans like me, adaptive equipment, one-on-one programs designed for mobility challenges, peer support, military-grade grit, mixed with civilian compassion. I called it Iron Will Training. It started with a few guys from the center, then came referrals from the VA. Then local news ran a story, then donations started coming in. And right there beside me every day was Sarah. She wasn't flashy, she wasn't loud, but she showed up. When I couldn't lift a weight, she adjusted the bar. When I doubted myself, she raised her eyebrow and dared me to prove her wrong. When I got frustrated, she didn't coddle me. She challenged me. And over time, something changed between us. Not out of pity, not out of a shared job title, but out of real, quiet, steady respect. The kind that doesn't ask for anything, but offers everything. The first time I kissed her, I told her something I never told anyone. I thought the war would break me, but what broke me was being forgotten. She looked me dead in the eye and said, I don't forget what matters, Ryan. And you matter. That was all I needed. We didn't rush things, didn't throw around the word forever. But we built something stronger than promises. We built trust. One day at the gym, one of the newer guys, double amputee, tough as nails, asked me, man, how'd you pull through it? Everything you went through, I thought about it for a second. Then I said, because the one thing she forgot ended up being everything I needed. It's been 3 years since Stephanie walked out. 3 years since I stood in that empty apartment with nothing but a note and a busted leg. Today, my limp is still there. Some mornings, the pain still lingers like a ghost I can't quite shake, but I've made peace with it. Because that limp, it reminds me that I survived, that I rebuilt, that I got back up on my terms. Iron will training has grown into something bigger than I ever imagined. We serve dozens of veterans every month, men and women learning how to live again inside bodies that no longer feel familiar. And every single one of them walks in thinking they're alone, until they see the rest of us standing. Sarah and I moved in together last fall. We kept it simple. No grand gestures, no borrowed vows, just quiet, honest love. The kind that doesn't leave when things get ugly, the kind that shows up. Sometimes I still wonder how Stephanie tells the story. If she paints herself as a victim of hard circumstances, if she regrets what she did. But honestly, it doesn't matter anymore. Because what she tried to throw away wasn't broken, it just hadn't found its purpose yet. What did you think of this story? If you were in Ryan's shoes, how would you have handled it? Let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you support Ryan, vote number 5. If you think Stephanie got what she deserved. Vote number 8. Don't forget to subscribe to Revenge with Chris so you never miss a powerful new karma story every single day.